The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no fuller on earth could bleach them. Then Elijah appeared to them along with Moses, and they were conversing with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He hardly knew what to say. They were so terrified. Then a cloud came, casting a shadow over them. Then from the cloud came a voice, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Suddenly, looking around, the disciples no longer saw anyone, but Jesus alone with them. As they were coming down from the mountain, he charged them not to relate what they had seen to anyone, except when the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what rising from the dead meant. Then they asked him, "Why do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" He told them, "Elijah will indeed come first and restore all things. Yet how is it written regarding the Son of Man, that he must suffer greatly and be treated with contempt? But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written of him." The Gospel of the Lord. There's a lot going on there as Mark recounts the Transfiguration, and what are we going to see for ourselves? I think there's a lot of kind of code language, signs that point to other things, and I think it's helpful to go through them at least to some extent. The question about Elijah and the Messiah, right? This is the kind of part of the tight complex of ideas that are in the disciples' minds as they follow Jesus. Remember, Peter has just said, "You're the Christ," right? You are God's anointed king. We're following you. Right, go, and we will follow. Right, so do the things that Messiah is supposed to do, and we will follow. Of course, there's in their own minds this timetable of what is the sequence of events, that leads to the Messiah, say, being known and revealed, and of course making his way to triumph. Right, and of course the defeat of Israel's enemies and the like, right? So what is the timeline? Where are we? Because they're puzzling with themselves, of course, now that they've seen Elijah and Moses and it's all being stirred up in them. Yeah, wasn't it that Elijah was supposed to come first and all the like? Jesus is going to point back then to John the Baptist as Elijah, which means that, yes, you're right to claim me as Messiah, right? There are all these kind of, for us, they're more opaque references than they were for them, but still for them, it's not this. It's very difficult to see Jesus coming out and saying, "I am the Christ," right? And there are a number of reasons why he resists doing that. For one, he's just not inclined to point to himself. I mean, this is like, it would almost go, it almost runs contrary to his nature to point to himself for anything whatsoever, right? He is perfectly embodying the God who is pure self-gift, who is totally for the other. It's very hard to then become self-referential, as he makes these important claims. They're kind of like making the claim, but in a way that he's not beating around the bush, but he's revealing it, but also he's doing a lot of work to draw people into the way that they ought to imagine who he is and what he's there to do, right? So to come out of themselves, to move from their world into his world, right? So as to say, it's not simply a matter of confirmation for them, because as soon as you say, "Hey, you know what? You're right." Well, now they're right about everything, aren't they? And that perhaps they're incorrigible. This is not what Jesus wants to do. He wants to keep them in that space where they're growing in knowledge of him. They're growing in wisdom as it relates to the things of God. So this comes at the end, and again, the confirmation. If we needed any more confirmation, we have the voice from the clouds. This is my beloved son. Listen to him. Right? We have this, and then we have Jesus speaking to them about rising from the dead. And then and what do we think? Again, if we keep our mind on our own situation, we know very well what Jesus meant about the Son of Man rising from the dead, because he rises from the dead. He walks out of the tomb 3 days after he's killed. Yeah, it's not. Sometimes a Saturday morning, it doesn't feel that exciting. Do you know? But it's like, can you imagine? This is what our faith is built on. Yeah, is Jesus being well and truly dead, walks out of the tomb that first Easter morning. Is there still power in that? Of course there is. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to tap into that power, the power of self-giving love that has conquered death. That's what we're here to do. Yeah, but the beautiful thing is, of course, they kept the matter to themselves as Jesus told them, questioning what rising from the dead meant. It's like, yes, of course, they don't know. They don't know what he was talking about. Yeah, so it's, I don't know, always the sound of a true first-hand account, right? It's like we didn't know what was going on. Peter was running around saying crazy things, and they were all terrified. It's like it wasn't quite the religious scene that we imagined in our minds, or that we've seen perhaps portrayed in any number of pieces of art. Right? It's like, no, it wasn't quite like that. Although in a lot of art, you see kind of like the terror try to capture the scene. But we still don't hear it for some reason. This is overwhelming stuff. And what's revealed is, of course, Jesus as Messiah. What's revealed is Jesus at the very intersection of heaven and earth. Jesus seen as he is. Yeah, Jesus seen as he is. His entire life, every fiber of his being radiating with the love of God. Yeah, totally animated by the love of God. Again, pushing the frontier, as it were, right? Like going where love must go, and the like. But here in the revelation to the apostles, that they see it again, surrounded, kind of sandwiched by Jesus saying, the Son of Man must die. And yet here he is, right? And it's more than a spectacle, right? The power that is at work in Jesus is seen clearly to the apostles. And yet they're going to be grappling with what it is he said he has to do, and also now what he's going to do. He's going to run right into the teeth of things. He's going to die, and it's not how do you say it's not simply an unhappy consequence. Actually, it's the point. He's going to go and do it. He's going to go and face down death and appear defeated and rise victorious, so that death's power defeated, now the reign of God can come in glory and in power, the power of self-giving love. So we have to hold on to this ourselves as well. Yeah, we are following a crucified king. So we ought not to expect to escape suffering in our lives. In fact, one of the things that being faithful Christians allows us to do is to suffer well. Our suffering also has meaning. As God, again, is advancing the frontier of his kingdom, as love is making progress into the realms where love is not, there will be suffering. There'll be suffering there. It's not like we're charged to do it. We are having his life, his spirit, that has conquered death, breathed into us, so that we can live beyond death here and now. We can live beyond the scent and the taint of death here and now, advancing his kingdom. We follow a crucified Messiah, but But let's not think that he lacks power and strength and wisdom and the like. Right? Let me think. I don't know if I want to do homily extension time. I'm trying to feel the room out, do you know? I kind of want to do it. I want to do it just to go on the record. Okay, so we do this. We talk about the will of God and our accepting the will of God. Like it's like bad things befall me, right? So bad things happen to me, and I think, okay, well, it's the will of God. I accept it. Okay, and then we start moving on or moving through, right? I don't think it's the right thing. I don't think this is the right thing to do. We're called to be a people who, again, advance his kingdom. And as we go about in that realm, as we go about trying to make, trying to allow him to make our whole life prayer and love, so love of God and love of neighbor as self, we are going to find ourselves in places where bad things befall us. It's just the nature of it. And instead of thinking, okay, well, God allows it, at least in his passive will or in his permissive will. Actually, what we ought to see is God is not on that side of the equation, right? Like, so it's like I'm on one side of the equation, God's on the other side of the equation. I'm suffering, he's allowing it to happen. I embrace it because he allows it to happen, right? We're just two sides of the equation. This is not right. The one side of the equation is the world is fallen. Yeah, so human beings are disfigured, and the world finds itself in a place of corruption, right? It's a fallen state. So that's on the one side of the equation. On the other side of the equation is God and me, right? So God calling me to oppose the forces of sin and death here and now with his life at work in me and working through me. So I get it. We don't, God's permissive will, forget about it. God has called me to be with him on his side of the equation, in which we are going to love and we are willing to bear the burden of love. He did it already. He bore the burden. He broke the back of idolatry, sin, wickedness, injustice. And he's called us into that kingdom of light that lives already beyond death. Okay, so this is where we need to be. Yeah, certainly not me versus God. Certainly not I'm suffering, God's not doing anything about it, he's allowing it to happen. No. The world is all over the place, but he's called us to be with him and to live lives of great love. We're going to suffer as a result. We're going to. But our consolation is in him, which is really why we pray. Yeah, is like we need him to be at work in us and working through us. What do we have? What do we have if we don't? And as the voice from the cloud says, this is my beloved son. Listen to him. He's making the way. He's making the way. We're not alone. He's making the way. We have to continue to trust and follow him.